Hello and welcome to a very special GG weekend watch. This is day one of our Cheltenham Festival preview 2022. Still sponsored by SBK, still with your regular team, myself in the hosting seat with Daryl Carter and Andrew Mount to guide you through all of the races on day one. Cannot wait for this year's festival. We get the return of the Raw and we have a cracking first race then to tee us up for what is going to be a fantastic opening day of the festival. So without further ado, we had better get cracking on with the racing. We're going to start with the 1:30, the Supreme Novices Hurdle. The betting currently reading at the time of recording, because we know how much this has been flip-flopping around. Constitution Hill is your favourite 2-1. So Gerhard is still in there. Next up, Dysart Dynamo, John Bon, Kilcrit, Mighty Potter, El Fabiolo, State Man, 16-1 bar. So Andrew, starting with yourself, please kick us off with the Supreme Novices.
It's a cracking race, isn't it? And it does feel like we've talked about this race more than any other since we've been looking at the festival. When I previewed this for GG on the website, I did put up Mighty Potter as an each-way alternative to those near the head of the betting. It does look like Gerhard's going to the Ballymore now rather than this race. He's drifted to about 10-1 on the exchanges. Constitution Hill, is he the next Shishkin? Possibly. Dynamo, is he the next Duvan? He could well be. John Bon, I know Daryl's not particularly fallen in love with that horse, neither have I, but I've been on preview panels this week where plenty of people have made solid cases for him. If he doesn't lose the race in the paddock and go a bit loopy, he tends to get warm beforehand, doesn't he? How is he going to go to post? How is he going to be affected by a massive crowd? But I came down the side of Mighty Potter each way for Gordon Elliott, who impressed me when beaten, actually, in the Royal Bond Hurdle at Fairyhouse last November. Very steady early pace that day, paid to be on the front end. He's only got beaten a length and a bit coming from off the pace. I thought that marks him down as one to follow. He's then gone to Leopardstown at Christmas and won in Grade 1 company. So at the prices, around about 10-1, I'll throw a few quid each way at Mighty Potter. As for the others, I mean, Constitution Hill is going right-handed for the first time. And I was on a preview panel with the trainer Jamie Snowden earlier this week, and he mentioned that when he watched the horse at a race course gallop, he was sort of looking at the way Nico had his hands and thinking maybe this horse isn't going to be suited by going left-handed. So, we'll see. He might not be. He might still be able to win because of his class. And, Nicky Hanson's described him as the most extraordinary horse he's ever come across. But at the prices, I'll just throw a few quid each way at Mighty Potter.
Yeah, I'd say around 10-1 then at the current time of recording. Mighty Potter has been a bit of a lurker for a fair few people then for this year's festival. Daryl, your assessment of the Supreme?
Yeah, cracking race. I like Mighty Potter for the Ballymore. I do think he's got a good each way chance in this. That the nonsense going around about Constitution Hill not being able to go left-handed is just rubbish. There's a terrible stat going around that no Supreme winner has always gone left-hand. Just what a load of crap! I've been going through the stats for these races for the last 3 months. I can promise you, I can pick a stat out to knock anyone's bet out of the water. If you're going that petty. I really like Constitution Hill. I think he'll drift on the day a little bit. I think he's a little bit too short at the moment. I can see him going off about 3 or 4 to 1. So I'd hold fire on backing him. His point-to-point form's worked out really well. Any harm in asking is now rated 140, and he made a bad mistake there, but he was very, very green. I mean, he didn't know what he was doing that day. The Sandown debut performance where he beat my eye by 14 lengths, I thought was just really impressive. I immediately backed him for this race after he crossed the line. I very rarely ever do that with a horse, especially for the Cheltenham Festival. And then the Tolworth Hurdle, I thought was a good performance. I'm a big believer that every single horse has to have ideal conditions to be at their best, but the very classiest horses can handle most conditions. And I think it was a case of that he handled it that day. Just touching back on his debut, he recorded the fastest closing splits across the 2 days of the entire meeting. I actually went back and recorded every closing split for the last 10 years in both of his runs, and nothing else has come close to what he's recorded in terms of time, even despite the fact that he was at Sandown on the deepest ground they've had for 10 years. I like him. He's very relaxed. You can stick him anywhere in a race. He will handle preliminaries fine. I don't think there's too many negatives with his chances whatsoever. I think if this horse was 4 or 5 to 1, I don't think you would have heard of the left-handed stat coming out for people. I just think they're trying to pick holes in what is a worthy favourite, in my opinion. Dysart Dynamo is very, very good. He kills his races from the beginning to the midsection of the race. How he's going to get up this hill Given how exuberant he can be, I'm not entirely sure. And he's another one with the prelims that he could just bubble over. I'm not as against John Bon as I was earlier in the season. Obviously, the race has completely changed complexion now. I'm not as against him as I was, but I would be disappointed if he was good enough to win this, in all honesty. I thought Mighty Potter, Andrew's completely right, is a good each way bet, even at the prices now around 10-1. He'll be staying on strongly, but I'm hoping Constitution Hill is the real deal here.
I love the analytics even then of Constitution Hill and his closing stages from Daryl, because that is giving me even greater confidence about horse. That I agree. I think he is a total superstar, total freak.
Just going back to the stats thing. I mean, remember, before your time, but Nicky Henderson won this with Flown, who'd had one run over hurdles. That was at right-handed Kempton, and then won this by 10 lengths second time out. So, and another stat doing the rounds about, you can't win the Supreme if you've only had 2 or fewer runs over hurdles. That's absolute nonsense.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, the left-handed stat thing. How many of those horses, for example, had won a Grade 1 on their second start? Or, there's loads of mitigating factors to these stats. They can prove a case and they can deter a case very easily.
However you manipulate it to your objective, then it is so true. And that's something that's completely worth bearing in mind when you have a shorty, a potential superstar. Then as Constitution Hill, people are going to try and throw stones, but I am jumping on the bandwagon as well then with Daryl of Constitution Hill. So that is us covered with the opening contest then of day one. We will move on to race 2. This is now the Arkle Chase, where this looks a pretty open race, really. Edwardstone is still heading the betting at the time of recording. So Daryl, your turn to lead us off, please. How do you assess the Arkle?
Cool. I have no idea who's going to win in all honesty. I don't have a strong opinion in the race. This again was a race that I was looking at the sort of stats for the 5-year-olds. Got a terrible record since the weight allowance has been abolished, but 8-year-olds are no better either. But then I wouldn't fancy Course Sublime or Gavin Yako. There was a good mention by Joe Tizard last night for his Warlord. Now, I know he's got a good bit to find. He's about 40-1. He's got a good bit to find, but there's stacks of pace in this race. Riviere to Tell is going to be prominent. St. Sam, Magic Daze. They're going to go quite hard, and Arkle was always very strongly run. So he could stay on just to pick up the pieces, but I think he will be ridden just to pick up pieces. So just bear that in mind. I thought Blue Lord was idling a bit when he got to the front at Leopardstown when he got ahead of Riviere de Tell, but I also think that he wasn't coming home that strongly up the hill at Cheltenham in the Supreme last year. If you really watch it closely, I think Daryl Jacob was absolutely asking for everything coming up that hill, and he was miles behind Appreciating in a poor Supreme. So I don't quite know where I stand with him. I think Edwardstone's probably the most likely winner, but he's one of these horses that I think we all agree that he is probably the most likely winner, but we don't really want to back him at 9-4 for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So a tentative selection for Edwardstone, but honestly, this is a rare case for me, but it's not going to be a race that I'm going to have a very strong view in.
No, it lost all of its allure earlier on when we lost Fernie Hollow, really, didn't it? But I'm in total agreement with Daryl again here, Andrew, where Edwardstone, he ticks every box, but he's just the horse where I just don't get excited about him for whatever reason. Can you give us more emphasis on him?
I've like you guys, I've been impressed by him. I think he's the best horse in the race, but will he win the race? Not necessarily, because of his running style. I know he was closer to the early pace when he won at Warwick last time, but generally speaking, he comes from off the back. And you look at the Arkle, it's been a real front runner's race. I mean, you could have back every horse who made the running in their prep race, and you'd made a good profit in the last 10 years. 6-year-olds have got a good record as well. So I was drawn to Magic Daze for Henry de Bromhead, who, like Put the Cattle On, is a 6-year-old mare. She was only third last time out behind Concertista, when perhaps not jumping as well as she had done when winning the time before. And I know you can look at it and think, well, there's a lot of pace in this race, but then you think, well, hang on, some of these horses were making the running in fields of 3 or 4 runners, probably because they're outclassing their rivals, and that was just the tactics adopted on that day. When you look at them in bigger fields and when they've run at Cheltenham previously, they're probably going to be happy just to take a lead. And I thought Magic Daze could cause a bit of an upset from the front. So as well as Put the Cattle On, we had Western Warhorse, another 6-year-old who tended to go from the front, who caused an upset in this race in 2014.
Yeah,
so
big
it really,
upset.
really all came down to price. And because, you get fallers, you get horses being hampered. Will the ground be better on the outside rather than the inside? Will Edwardstone creep round the inner like most Alan King horses do? Will that lead to trouble? Will he be on the slowest part of the track? And at 9-4, you think, well, I can let him win at that price, and cheer him home if he does. But I'd rather be on Magic Days at 14-1, 12-1, and hope she can give another winner for the 6-year-olds.
Yeah, and she may well come out on top then of those front runners that we have in here with Saint Sam and the Danger of For Pleasure as well, because Magic Day, she's pretty tough on the front end. She's
Four Pleasure is a shorter price for the Grand Annual.
Yeah,
I'll still go for that. And to be honest, Four Pleasure's jumping so dodgy that I'm not convinced he'll still be on his feet after the first.
Yeah, good luck to him then if he does go for this race to take on Magic Days and Saint Sam on the front end. So yeah, not an overly inspiring Arkle, but we're all taking on the favourite then on that basis. So we'll move on to our next race, the 250. This is the Ultima handicap chase over 3 mile 1. Does he know at the head of the market? So Andrew, back to you please for your assessment of the Ultima.
Yeah, cracking race. Very difficult to gauge at this stage because we don't know the final makeup of the field. We don't know the pace angle. My shortlist, top of my shortlist is T Clipper for Tom Lacey, who made a winning chase debut at Chepstow in October on good ground. After that, his trainer said he's not a winter horse. He's not a soft ground horse. There's no point running him in the winter. But of course, in order to get in the Cheltenham Festival handicap, you've got to run 3 times, over fences. So what's he done? He's run him twice on winter ground. It's an incredible, clever bit of placing, because he's running graded races at Newbury and, of course, the Courto Star Novices chase at Kempton on Boxing Day. He's finished well beaten, last of 4 in that race. But across those 2 races, he's picked up 20,000 quid in prize money and gained valuable chase experience. Not done any damage to his handicap mark, and then qualified to race in a handicap at the Cheltenham Festival. So T Clipper, as long as it's no worse than good to soft. At the time of recording, Friday morning, there's a little bit of light rain in Cheltenham, but there's nothing more forecast. There might even water prior to Tuesday's racing. And so hopefully the ground's fine for T Clipper. Other novices, Grumpy Charlie was on the radar. Corash Rambler for Lucinda Russell, who doesn't run many here at the Cheltenham Festival, and they often run well at big prices. And Chambard for Venetia Williams, who has been running regularly in order to try and get into Cheltenham, have a chance of getting in. I thought the King Mule would be more his race if he does run here, but he'd have a squeak as well. But yeah, T Clipper, the main one of a rather long shortlist at this stage.
Yeah, T Clipper is a nice price though, isn't he? 33-1 there. And as you say, just an optimal bit of placing by Tom Lacey then in order to qualify. So I'll be delighted for him if that manages to come off then. Daryl, anything similar for yourself?
Yeah, very similar sort of thoughts in terms of I need to see the final makeup of this race, in all honesty. I've got a short list. Noble Yeats is very much towards the top of that short list. I think he's the most interesting runner from the Irish contingent. This horse is off a mark of 147, but we've not nowhere near seen what he's really capable of yet. Chased home a hoist in his last start, but he was held up at the rear of the field. He wasn't there to go and try and take it to a hoist in your. I like the way that Alan Cowley sort of asked him quite a bit going down to the third last, and then just eased off in between the third and second, and then asked him again once the race was gone.
Yeah.
But I love the way he jumps. He's a very good jumper. This is definitely his trip. I think he could be well treated off a mark of 147, so he would be on the radar. I would be against Does He Know at the top of the market, and I just don't like horses that have been running at that Ascot meeting. There's been no winners come from that meeting in the last 4 years, and it was dire ground that day, 3 weeks before festival. I mean, you look at the Dublin Racing Festival, they moan about how quick the ground is over there, but it tends to serve them very well running on quick ground before the festival, whereas our lads running on heavy ground at Ascot, a stiff track like Ascot, is just no good, I don't think. So I'd be against him. FANTASTIKAS is the one I've liked for a long, long time, but I've been a little bit put off because he's become a bit of a wise guy horse now. And it puts me off a little bit when everyone seems to fancy a horse. But I think this horse has got loads more to come. I tipped him at Lingfield when he beat Queen of Hearts by a short head, but he pulled miles clear of the field and he was just idling that day in front. I think it's done him a favour because the handicap has only stuck him up £4 for that. I'm trying to look for a horse that's got about £10 in hand, and Fantastikas could be that. He's very much on the upgrade. He's had very few starts over 3 miles. I definitely think this is his trip. And I think he's got a good chance. There are others on the radar, of course. Schoolboy Hours is another one. Common Teddy, although I don't know if his run style will be suited. He might be better suited down to Kim Muir, a smaller field where he can be held up. But yeah, it's a very interesting race. I'll stick with Fantastikas and Noble Yeats at the moment at the current way the field's shaping.
Yeah, and I think did you say it was 35 horses that have come out from that Ascot meeting? And none of them have won then for Does He Know? Was it 35?
Yeah, I read it in the Betfair column somewhere, didn't I?
Yeah, I read your writing. I was really sort of taken aback by that. I thought, goodness me, that is some stats to be following then for, well, against Does He Know? But no, that's going to be really interesting considering that he currently heads the betting. But Noble Yeats and Fantastikas at the current time of recording then until we get a proper idea of how this race is going to shape up for Daryl. So we will move on to a race we know far more about. That is the Champion Hurdle. This is at 3:30. Honeysuckle, the 4-9 favourite. Currently from Appreciate It, who we get to see again then, first time in open company. If he wins this, it'll probably be Willie Mullins' greatest ever training feat. I think it really would be fantastic. Tia Hoopu, Epatante, Adagio then follow the market leaders in next up. So Daryl, back to you then, please. Can Honeysuckle be beaten?
I think she can be beaten. She's going to be beaten sooner or later, but she's going to be very, very difficult to beat in this. This is not the best champion hurdle field you'll ever see. Put it that way. I've taken a chance, and I'm standing by it, and I've taken a chance to Appreciate It, and I am going to back him again on the day because I don't think there's as much between them as everyone's made out. There was lots of contradiction about the Supreme last year and the champion hurdle. Like they put it on Road to Cheltenham. On Racing TV, and they did it from flag 4, and then it was just a mess for me, and I thought that there was some contradiction that came out of that. So I just want to quickly clear it up. Honeysuckle from the first landing side of the first flight to the finishing line was about 7 lengths better than Appreciate It, right? But Appreciate It from the landing side of the first hurdle to the top of the hill, which is the 5th, was 10 lengths faster than Honeysuckle. So she was faster from 3 out to the finish than what Appreciate was in the Supreme when you play the races side by side. But what I will just say is Honeysuckle, as she does in all her races, Rachel tends to get a ride in just before the bend, and she quickens around the bend and free rolls home. So she had to get racing at the bend, whereas Appreciate and Paul Townend was sat there. He was sort of sat there double handful, and he didn't really have to make any sort of move until he got down to what was the second last. And then he just pulled away. So he actually didn't get racing. He didn't have the gun put to his head. So I'm not entirely sure there's as much between them. Just on the basis of from the first flight to the finishing line, there's 7 lengths. But if you calculate that at 10 lengths quicker in between, there's 3 lengths between them. I know he's going to come here off a Mammoth Layoff, but anyone can do it. Willie Mullins can do it. And the lack of a run doesn't really bother me. You know, he's not going to leave him short for a champion hurdle. No. You know, he's going to be primed to the minute for this. So I think he's the most likely horse to turn her over. Whether he can or not is, you know, it remains to be seen. But he'd be my selection.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we've seen Willie Mullins do it with Corvega for how many years in a row was that first time up? And I know that
the likes of Benny Dejure and countless others.
Champion bumper winner. That's it. So, like I say, if any trainer's going to do it, and I think you make a very good case there, yes, again, Daryl. So it's making me slightly nervous. Andrew, Honeysuckle, with or against?
Probably with, if you're giving me a 70,000 quid 3 bet to win 40, but I'm guessing you're not. But,
done deal.
She can make it 15 out of 15. Be fantastic for the sport if she does. But in terms of punting, I've got to look elsewhere. One I've been on about for a while is Son Roy for Willie Mullins, around about 33 to 1 or 50 to 1, I think. Last year's county hurdle winner. You know, since he's graduated to Grade 1, Grade 2 company, he's not really had the big field. Well, he's never had the big field, strong pace that ideally suits. He was 4th to Honeysuckle last time. Typical Son Roy, keen and rear. Stayed on, beaten about 9 lengths, and never able to strike a blow at the winner. I'm disappointed it's cut up to the number of runners it has, but going through the running styles, you can still expect a decent gallop. There's plenty of these who tend to make the running, or at least press the early pace. So I'd be interested in backing Sonroy each way at a big price, particularly with Willie Mullins having a much shorter stablemate in opposition and appreciate it. And it might just be a case of pick up the pieces. You look at when Hurricane Fly was sort of winning the race and various others, often the bigger price stablemate was ridden for a place and just to come through and pick up some place money. That's all I'm after here. One that was sort of semi-interesting is Not So Sleepy at 100 to 1. Bear in mind that when he ran in this race last year, he was 125 to 1. He's finished fifth, beating about 13 lengths, not disgraced behind Honeysuckle. He's rated officially £10 higher this year, having won a Grade 1 race, and he's still the same price. Again, bombed out last time out at Kempton, but coming back to Cheltenham after a break, maybe Not So Sleepy can run a good race as well. So that's the kind of way I'm looking at the race. A take on the top of the market with just some speculative each way bets, particularly on Sonroy.
Yeah, I wanted them to run Sonroy in the county, to be honest, off the probably top weight at 155. That's what Petit Mouchoir ran in the county off the top weight with Jordan Gainford taking £7 off his back last year. And I thought they were going to go for that angle, but if they do go then for the champion hurdle, and
a bit like Arctic Fire as well, who obviously ran so well in the champion hurdle and then won the county off a big weight. But I think Mullins has got so many others.
Yeah, to be fair,
in the county hurdle that maybe they think the champion hurdle's easier.
Yeah, it actually, I know we jest, but that may well be the case. Yes, so big prices then, and 100 to 1 about Not So Sleepy, the outside for a field for Andrew. I would love to see Honeysuckle win, of course, and I really hope that she manages to do so. And maybe she'll finally get the credit she deserves then, and a rousing reception for her and Rachel Blackmore, I hope. But again, from a betting perspective, the two I was looking at, Epatante and Adagio. Adagio is my favourite of the 5-year-olds then in this race. I've loved this horse this year, and I would love to see David Pipe basically get his rewards for a brave campaigning of his horse. I know we've only seen him twice, but to run a 4-year-old off of top weight in the Greatwood really was quite something, and it almost came off. And then his second last time out to Goshen, ability-wise, he has the ability to go close in champion hurdle, but unfortunately his brain doesn't let him. So I thought that was solid. But Epatante, I just think Epatante is pretty solid to reach the frame here, really. She hasn't got charges to get in her way of the places this year. She's far slicker now that she's had the back operation over the summer as well. So they are my two then against the field for the each way plays, and hopefully just basically for third place, I think, to run into. So we will move on to our next contest. That's the champion hurdle done. We move on to the 410 even. This is the mares hurdle, the Grade 1 then. Pretty open contest. Not entirely sure still what's going to go here. So Andrew, back to you, please, for the mares hurdle.
Yeah, I really like these races. I know they're often dominated by short-priced Irish-trained runners because we had Quivega winning this on several occasions, but that often presents each-way value elsewhere. And again, the number of horses who've been ridden patiently, come from off the pace to get in the first sort of 3 or 4 at big prices has been numerous. And that's going to be the angle for my punting on this race as well. Now, it's always worrying when you start fancying British trained runners in mares races at the Cheltenham Festival because the Irish dominate. But there's 2 I'm going to put forward with each way claims. One is our old friend Martello Sky, who I know we've all been fans of at various times on Weekend Watch this season. She's had 6 runs against her own sex in mares races, in other words, 5 wins and an 8th at last year's Cheltenham Festival in the Dawn Run behind Telmesomethinggirl, who heads the market here. Now, that day, she jumped terribly. She made a complete Horlicks at the first. She was on the outside of the field and just never jumped a hurdle. And 2 miles 1 was too short for her. She stayed on really well, finished 8th, beat about 15 lengths. It was a great effort in the circumstances. Lucy Wadden was talking up her chances in the Racing Post earlier this week. So I think she's 14 to 1. She's a fair stab if she can get 4 places. And the other one was Indefatigable, who was 4th in the race last year, doing 2nd best of the British trained runners. Roxana was the only British one who beat her. The year before, she won the Martin Pipe Conditional Jockeys Handicap Hurdle at the festival. And the year before that, she ran in the Dawn Run, finished 5th at a big price when I stuck her up as an each-way bet and had her in my play spot. And she's done best of the British. So she's been to the festival 3 times, running very competitive races, and she's only been beaten by, one other British horse previously. So I know the trouble is you back her each way at 25, she might find, she might run really well, but finishing 4th or 5th. But I thought, Martello Sky and Indefatigable, 2 at big prices for the home side.
Andrew flying the flag. Yes,
Yay.
right. In the mare's hurdle. That's where we want our wins. And that's maybe the way that this week's going to play out. So well done, Andrew, for those couple of each way prize horses then to reach the frame potentially. Daryl, yourself.
How does Goshen keep getting so many mentions on this show?
Don't. I cursed myself then. The G word.
I like Indefatigable. I think she should be running in the Stayers hurdle, though, because I think that race would really suit her. I think there could be a little bit more to come over 3 miles, but she looks more likely to go here. She'll have a chance. But I like Tell Me Something Girl at the top of the market. I've actually bet 2 in this race, Marie's Rock and Tell Me Something Girl. I think Tell Me Something Girl is very much on an upward curve arriving here. I think she's about to produce a career best, in my opinion. Henry, the Bromhead, has worked backwards from this race all season. She was the best horse to take out of the race at Leopardstown over Christmas when giving weight to Royal Kahala and Heaven Help Us. I think there's plenty of pace on in the race. I think that will set up nicely for her. And I just think she's by far the best of these, in all honesty, and I think she's still improving. Marie's Rock, I've had a couple of quid on double figure price, simply on the basis that she really caught the eye when she ran here in the Great Wood earlier in the season. And the step up and trip has just brought out so much improvement in her. And she's got a turn of foot in her arsenal, which is something a lot of these horses don't tend to have over this distance. So a lot of these horses over middle distance trips, it's normally the case that they're not quick enough for 2 miles and they're more stayers, but they might not necessarily get 3 miles. So for me, Marie's Rock, who has the 2 mile turn of foot speed, has the stamina for this trip, I think she could just be a big danger to all. So I thought I'd back her each way, but more confidently on Tell Me Something Girl at the top of the market.
Yeah, the fact that Henry de Bromhead has been working back to this race then all season. Tell Me Something Girl at the head of the market, but also a fair price then about Marie's Rock and each way price nonetheless then for Daryl. We will move on then to the 450. This is the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle, as we also know it as the Fred Winter in itself, over 2 miles for these 4-year-olds. Gaelic Warrior, the talking horse, then at the head of the market, see if he can make light of his now British mark himself. But Daryl, how do you assess this race?
Yeah. Gaelic Warrior. I think he could end up being a very, very good thing here. Now, I know what people are going to say, and I know what people have been saying all along. Well, you're guessing, you haven't seen him, this, that. Well, he has had 3 runs in France, right? Mm-hmm. He has had 3 runs in France, and I've been through the form as much as I possibly can. And there is grade 1 form in there. There is grade 2 form in there. There is form that ties in with Porticillo very closely. He was rated 140 over here. They were expecting to get a mark of 139. And even that, they thought they had a good bit in hand on. But they've given him 129 because the handicap has changed the way he's done the system. Obviously, I do a bit of work with a guy, Dave, and he's really, really keen on this. He's gone back through years and years of stats and this, that, and the other, and he's really, really keen on it. I have backed Gaelic Warrior for my sins, but I think he could be a good thing. The other one I've actually backed, and I backed him earlier in the season, was the Tide Turns for Gordon Elliott. I thought he was a massive eye catcher in the was it the Red Mills, wasn't it, over at Garon Park behind Tihipu?
Last time out, yes, it was.
Yeah. Dennis O'Regan went to put his rip through, and he decided not to after he said to go up the inside. That was a run to qualifying for this, and I mean, that Spring Juvenile 4 looks very good after Iker Allen come out and bolted up next time. I think he's a very good horse. We've not seen the best of him yet. And I think if Gaelic Warrior blows out, I think the Tide Turns will pick it up. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, there's the top 2 in the market. Well, they weren't the top 2 in the market. Well, one of them was. They weren't towards the top of the market earlier in the season. So, yeah, I'm happy with my position at the top of the market, in all honesty.
especially with the prices you would have got beforehand as well, before everyone cottoned on to the fact that we think the handicapper might have got the workings wrong with Gaelic Warriors mark. Then if he's running off this £10 lower mark, then he even probably should be on. So yeah, that sort of blows this race open a little bit. Andrew, does it? Have you got another angle in?
Yeah, very much so. I love this race because it often goes to an outsider. I love backing outsiders each way. You know, the last 10 years, we've had an 80-1 winner, Jeff Kidder last year, 2 40-1 shots, 3 33-1 shots, a couple of 25-1 pokes. It's madness to take 9-4. However, well handicapped you think Gaelic Warriors at the moment. I mean, you look at Saint Sam beaten in the race last year, now £10 higher. Riviera Detel unplaced in the race last year, now £13 higher. We've seen plenty.
This is no Saint Sam or Riviera Detel, though, Andrew.
Well, that's what they said about those. That's what they said about Saint Sam last year as well, wasn't it? And again, it all comes down to hype. And at least you were getting 9-2 about Saint Sam. You could back him each way. Now you're getting 9-4. Fair play if you've got the prices. I mean, there is a good argument. Harry Finley made a case when I did a preview with him a couple of weeks ago about the way the British handicapper treats French form now. That he's had to give him a mark of 129 as opposed to, like Daryl said, the £10 higher they were expecting. So he could be very well handicapped. Even if he is well handicapped, he wins by 10 lengths. You're still getting firms who are going to be offering 5, 6, 7 places and have plenty of horses you can back each way. The main thing you need in the Fred Winter is a patient running style. We've seen plenty of good horses sit too close to the front end and get beat. You can just back any horse who was described as held up in its prep race and make a profit in this race. You can back any horse who finished 4th or worse last time out, and you'd have found 7 of the last 10 winners and made 189 quid at SP. The profile tends to be horses running in Grade 1, Grade 2 company who couldn't win, who were held up at the back of the field, having a jog round, finishing, and never near a sort of 4th, 5th, 6th. So do look at those sort of Grade 1 races, particularly in Ireland. I mean, the Tide Turns, he's not a big price, but he does fit that profile. As does Too Friendly for Dan Skelton, who was unplaced at Doncaster in Grade 2 company last time, again under a patient ride. Skelton's had 9 runners in this race. 6 of the 9 have made the first 6. That doesn't sound earth-shattering, but when you consider most were massive prices and most firms are paying 6 places on these kind of races, then that's certainly an each-way angle. So I need to do more work on this race, but do consider tote exactas for some of those big price ones and permanent them, and don't go mad about 9-4 shots at the head of the market. So I'll go Too Friendly each way for the purposes of this video.
20-1 then, Too Friendly isn't too shabby at all, but yeah, just be wary then if you haven't already managed to get the price on Gaelic Warrior. And for what it's worth, I'm going to chuck in Brazil then at an each way price therefore, because he ticks an awful lot of boxes for me. I mean, he absolutely bolted up last time out at Nathan, a rated novice hurdle, which is a positive to come into the Boodles off of. I think he's on a very fair marker, 137 or the same. He's had ample runs this season with his flat run to go with his hurdle run, so he has that experience. I am slightly concerned on the basis of last time out, he might be ridden too far forwards because, Andrew, as you say, with the hold-up performance, that's really what I was looking at. But if you revert back to the tactics then previously implemented, I thought Brazil had a pretty fair shout then at an each-way price as well, should Gaelic Warrior be a good thing. Our final race of day one then is the 5:30. This is the Ukraine Appeal National Hunt Challenge Cup Amateur Jockeys Novices Chase for Grade 2. The not quite 4 miler, basically, if any of those words were a bit too long-winded then for you. But wonderful sponsorship then this year for the Ukraine Appeal, of course. Again, pretty open race. Stayers to the 4. Andrew, who stays the best?
Run Wild Fred, probably, who bids to give Gordon Elliott, Denise Foster another winner in this race. And I did a preview with you last week, Kate, and I said they've got the wrong favourite in this race in Statler. Run Wild Fred. Run Wild Fred's battle hardened. He's had plenty of experience over fences. Since this became a Grade 2 race in 2017, 46 horses who've had, I think, 4 or fewer runs over fences have tried to win it. All 46 got beat. So I was worried. I know, Statler 2 from 2, trained by Willie Mullins, but he's the kind of horse who gets beaten this at a short price. So I thought Run Wild Fred should be favourite. I think he will. Well, I think he just about is now anyway, looking at the latest exchange prices. I'm told 3-under-through 5 won't go through for this. I was half interested in him as a place possibility despite Paul Nichols's dodgy record in the race, just because outside of his seasonal debuts, I think he's won 7 from 8 or 8 from 9. And Pat's Fancy was interesting. I thought he'd have a squeak in the Ultima. He's come for this instead. And, he's one who could go well stepping up in trips. I'll go Run Wild Fred over Pat's Fancy.
Oh, interesting then. So yeah, Run Wild Fred, you say, he has all that experience being the second season novice, therefore to put to good use. But I'm actually going to take him on with his stablemate, owner mate with Farouk Dialen. I was between the pair of them. I think that's going to be my forecast, therefore, with Farouk Dialen to hopefully beat Run Wild Fred in the hope that he can just find one horse too good again, because I think this is the test that Farouk Dialen has really been crying out for. Then, Daryl, your assessment, please.
No, last time out beaten favourite this century has won this race, and Run Wild Fred was beaten favourite last time out.
How many have tried, Daryl?
I don't know, mate.
What was the expected number of winners from that sample?
Back in your court, Daryl. Bat it back quickly.
If you can't come up with that, it's like 8-year-olds in the Arkle this century, 2 from 37. It sounds bad. The expected number of winners was 2.33. Most of them are massive prices.
Yeah, that's because most of them don't go, do they?
You can massage stats to suit your own.
Oh, massage it away because it's in my
course.
We
all know
of course, I've already said that, but it helps me when I'm trying to take on a short price favourite that's been an anti-post favourite for this race for God knows how long. So it helps me to try and take him on. The one I really like for this is 3-under-3-5. Paul,
he's not going Daryl, I'm told.
I was speaking to Paul last night at a preview meeting, and we were texting Max McNeil trying to get him to go. And he's gone. Apparently, Paul is desperate to run him in this. Absolutely desperate to run him in this. And but Max McNeil wants to keep the partnership with Adrian Heskin on 3-under-3-5. So they are considering now. He went apparently last night. The odds of him going in this were 33-1. After the preview night, it was 10-1. So they are considering it for him going in this.
Back out to 26-1 on the exchanges at the moment.
Yeah, I know. I've backed it, but I don't know how many. How many people know that from the preview night, which I've just got back from.
Just another general point about stats in this race, the National Hunt Chase. It's a completely different race now than it was when it was I think it was a listed race when I first started betting on it in the late 80s, early 90s. It was elevated to Grade 2 status in 2017. So if you are looking at 10-year, don't look at 10-year trends, 22-year trends. Perhaps just look at, certainly give extra weight to what's happened in the last 5 years since it was upped in grade.
The thing with Run Wild Fred with me is I just wonder why he's been kept away from Cheltenham for all these years. So I don't know. I like him a lot. He's got the experience, of course he has. But I think he's up against a lot of non-stayers. I don't think Statler stays. I think Vanillier's regressed £10 over fences. I don't think Farouk the Lynn stays this trip. I think this will find him out. Fury Road, you don't know which Fury Road's going to turn up. On the ropes, jumps out to the right. Pat's Fancy's probably got a fair chance. Does he know won't go here? And 3-under-3-5 is a double figure price. So why Max McNeil's wanting to take on Brave Man's Game, I really don't know. He should be coming in here. I'm on Bray's side at bigger prices from earlier in the season, but he's just looked slow as an old boat. I will just give a mention to one at a big price because we obviously if 3-under-3-5 doesn't go in here, then my opinion is probably going to be very less strong than what it was. But Streets of Doyen's around a 66-1 chance. This was a horse that was beaten 12 lengths by Vanilla and Bartlett last year. Finished third. He then went out and bumped into a Hoy Senor at Aintree, finished fourth. No mean feat there. Brave Man's Game was in front of him that day. And then Punchestown, he was just tailed off 58 lengths by Gallop in Deschamps in first time blinkers. I would ignore that Punchestown run, given the 2 hard races he had before that. Came out this season at Galway, won his chase over 2 miles 6. And then was beaten at Worcester. He refused at Cheltenham when behind 3-under-3-5. But I don't know. I think there was something wrong with him that day. He never really travelled through the race. There was just something not quite right with him. His reappearance, though, at Navan the other week, when behind Gentleman to Me over 2 miles, I thought was very, very promising for a horse that wants 3 miles.
Yeah.
So it was a good step back in the right direction. And he is just one of these horses that could just stay and stay and stay. So 66-1, he'll do for me at the moment until we know what bloody Mad Max is doing with...
Mad Max.
just, just going back to that, horses who were beaten as favourite in their prep race. Last 5 years for the National Hunt Chase, 11 qualified. The expected number of winners was 0.73. 5 of them have finished in the first 4, including Mr. Approach, who was second at 50 to 1. So it's not a significant sample size. But,
how many had run at Cheltenham?
Previously,
yeah,
don't know without going through it and having a look. But yeah, just be a little bit wary of that one.
I'll make the most of that. What was it, 0.7 expectation then? And hope that Run Wild Fred falls into that for Farouk Dielen. So definite differing opinions in the not quite 4 miler then to round off day 1. So all there is left to do, well, a couple of things, but to get your naps for day 1. So Andrew, I'll go back to you, please. Your nap for day 1.
Crikey, that is a very difficult one. I'll go Magic Days in the Arkle, round about 14 to 1.
Oh, nicely done, Daryl.
It is a difficult one. I think Telmesomethinggirl will win the mare's hurdle.
Yeah, rightly so. And I am going to go Constitution Hill in the Supreme. So outsider of the day, Daryl, back to you.
Streets Doyen in the National Hunt Chase at 66.
Oh, 66 to 1. Andrew, you've already given us basically an outsider for your nap, so you can flip-flop it if you want.
Well, the way I bet at Cheltenham, Magic Days is one of the shortest price runners I'll be backing, I think. So, but yeah, Saint Roy, if you like.
Oh, yeah.
Champion Hurdle, 50 to 1 thereabouts each way. You'll probably be able to find each way without the favourite. Hopefully 9 or more go to post, and you'll also be able to bet each way without the favourite, and probably make money on the bets if he's 4th. So yeah, I think he'll run well at the big price.
See, I feel like I'm being an absolute cop-out now with my outsider then to side with, because he's not an outsider, he just happens to be in each way price, but even then he's been nibbled in. St. Sam in the Arkle, he's not an outsider. Andrew's nap is a bigger price than him in that race, but I think that St. Sam is worth a bit of value then in the Arkle. So that is us wrapped up for day 1 then of our Cheltenham preview. Lots of differing opinions, lots of strong opinions at the same time. We'll move on to day 2 then in our next video, so stay tuned for that.